Hello and welcome once again to Books Wale Bhaiya. I am Abhishek. Today I am talking about the book Why Bharat Matters by Dr. S. Jaishankar. Dr. Jaishankar is the Honourable External Affairs Minister of India. He is also one of the most well known and respected politicians. Drawing from his diplomatic experience of close to 5 decades, he has been India's Foreign Secretary and also India's ambassador to US and several other countries. He talks about how foreign policy has changed under the current government, how foreign policy and diplomacy is changing India as well as the world. In the initial chapters, he talks about why diplomacy is important even for the common man, whether it's helping Indian citizens which are stranded abroad in other countries, getting them back to India, or whether negotiating for cheaper items such as oil and other items, as well as in opening a more passport center, you name it, and there are several aspects wherein diplomacy plays a key role for the common man. He then takes a overview of the world we are living in and the challenges it is facing, whether it's the COVID, whether it's various wars being fought, whether it's terrorism, the climate changes, and lot many challenges, and he talks about India's role in this changing world scenario. He argues that India's role, India's stature has definitely increased in the world, especially since 2014. He also argues that while India is definitely looking at the world in a different way, very importantly, the world is also looking at India in a different way. He says that while India is definitely increasing its stature in the world, it is not becoming a belligerent or a dominant country. Rather, he argues that India is definitely practicing the policy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas even in diplomacy. He gives the examples of the vaccine diplomacy wherein India helped several countries getting the COVID vaccines. Another example he gives is that of India including the African Union, in which India played an important role including the African Union in the G20 group of countries. He also argues that when looking at India, the new India, you cannot ignore the civilizational and culture history of India. India is definitely marching ahead in the new world, but it's keeping its culture and civilization alive. To understand India, he says, you cannot ignore its past, its history, its rich culture. In fact, in the book, he has talked about Ramayana several times and how he draws parallels between the characters of Ramayana who faced several kind of dilemmas or ethical choices and other issues, and how he sees how he can compare that to the similar problems being faced by countries or diplomats when it comes to taking important decisions. In fact, those who follow Dr. S. Jaishankar, they would know that he once said on being asked that for him, Lord Krishna and Lord Hanuman were the best diplomats ever. He talks about this new India, how it is changing for the world, how the world is changing for India, and he also talks about the various historical mistakes or historical blunders being committed in the past. He gives a very detailed description of such mistakes. There is a separate chapter in which he talks about history, and trust me, you get to know a lot about our history, something which even I was aware of, even though I have read a lot many books on history. However, he does not give an overriding importance to that. What he argues most is that the way India is changing and is looking ahead, and also ensuring that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. There are separate chapters on China and on the threat of terrorism. He talks about how one should deal with China. In fact, it was during his tenure that the Galwan clash happened. So he talks about what should be our policy while dealing with China, and he says that at the end of the day, it's important for both the countries in a way to work together for the future. He also talks about the problems of terrorism, how India especially under the current government has worked on the threat of terrorism. So he's talking of a new, vibrant, more energetic India who is definitely taking the world along. He says that India, more than a Vishwa Guru, is actually becoming a Vishwa Mitra, the examples of which he already gave through the various diplomatic initiatives, and in fact the vaccine diplomacy, inclusion of the African Union, just a few, but several other measures at the diplomatic level, whether it's about green energy or renewable sources of energy, and lot many which he say are actually defining the new India. He is arguing that when you talk of the new India, diplomacy and foreign policy are going to play a very key role, and this is what the current government is doing. So if we are hopeful about the future of India, if we want a better India, and if we want to understand what role is diplomacy or foreign policy playing in that, well, this is a must read book. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you liked the video. Please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thank you.